Greg Wathen served as president and CEO of the Economic Development Coalition since its formation in 2007. Greg has been involved in successful projects that have resulted in the creation of more than 4,200 jobs and invested more than $3.3 billion in the southwest region of Indiana. Under his leadership, for every dollar invested in the coalition, it created a $313 return within the community. Greg was born and raised in Tell City, Indiana. He had no idea his path would lead him to economic development and earning him the prestigious honor being named to the top 50 economic developers in North America. In fact, his path was taking him into a totally different direction.
I was the youngest of 5 children. Dad moved here after the war in Tell City and working for General Electric. And both Mom and Dad worked at the same facility. Dad was a machinist and Mom just worked on the line. I learned a lot from my mom and dad, in particular of watching them work hard to make a better life for all of us. It was really fantastic growing up as a kid in Tell City. Always felt safe, just a fun time to be downtown. Rode our bikes everywhere, had a super group of friends that I grew up with. When I started my high school career, I did something a little bit different. Mom and Dad thought I was probably a little crazy, but I decided I wanted to go into the seminary. So I went to a high school, Divine Heart Seminary, no longer exists, in northern Indiana, outside of Plymouth, which was just outside of South Bend. It was an amazing experience. And the education, it's still to this day, it was much more challenging in my high school than it ever was in college. Well, I continued my college career, deciding that I really wanted to still become a priest. So I started the college program at Loyola University in Chicago, and then after 2 years decided at that point in time, it just wasn't for me. And then I transitioned out and finished up my degree at Indiana State. My background was in speech communication, marketing. So I actually had an opportunity to come back home to my hometown, and I worked for a radio station, believe it or not. And so I was on the air live talent, knew nothing about it, but I became a morning disc jockey on a country music radio station. Then came to Evansville after that to work for WGBF. Left Evansville, moved to Mount Vernon, Illinois, worked for General Automotive, which was one of the owners of Napa. So I basically, through their distribution center there, helped put in new Napa stores or work with existing Napa stores to expand that. And I was actually going back to a wedding in Tell City, met Liz, who's now my wife, at the wedding reception. Didn't know one another, and we've been together ever since. My father-in-law was Bob Lockmuir. And for those who know basketball around the region, he was really one of the most successful high school basketball coaches in the state of Indiana, winning more than 400 games in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. What I learned from Bob is being very meticulous, having specific goals and objectives that you want to be able to achieve, and basically love of family.
Before Greg landed in Evansville, he worked as a public affairs manager for Greater Louisville Economic Development. Later, Greg moved back to his hometown in Tell City and became president and CEO for Perry County Development Corporation. Greg's first day on the job in Evansville started in a very unconventional way.
March 1st, 2007 was the meeting with Whirlpool. And we sat there in this meeting about the possibility of them shutting down the facility. That's my very first meeting. And I thought, as I came home that very night, I was talking to my wife, I said, I don't know if I might have made a mistake.
You know, when Whirlpool announced they were leaving the community and the opportunity to hire those engineers to start something new, you know, Greg was on the forefront of really being creative and how do we retain the best talent in the community.
Retaining talent, attracting talent is a challenge. So what Greg has done and what kids coming through JA see are opportunities. And that's what we need to show them. The greater Evansville region has opportunities, and we're a better region because of Greg and the good work of JA.
I think Greg is really selfless. He's really concerned about the well-being of the entire region and really did that through building trust. You know, regionalism is very difficult to do, and Greg went out one person by one person and really built trust to really talk about how we are better together versus working independently from each other.
One of the things that people probably don't know about me is that my family, my wife and I, we own a couple of horses. It really gives you a sense of peace and serenity of just thinking, gosh, you know, you're around these beautiful creatures And it's just something that people probably don't realize, that it's, here you are and working sometimes in these incredible tense situations. What helps you relax sometimes is just being around, just the simplicity of being around an animal. And in particular, we have a couple of horses. I'm not sure why I was chosen or being inducted into the Regional Hall of Fame. It's certainly a great honor. I think for me, if anything, it's really more of a reflection of what's happened within the broader community, of getting people to come together to think, we can make a change if we work together. And if I have any skills whatsoever, it's just being able to get people to think that it's not just for me and only for me, but if we do this collectively, we can have so much more of a major impact for the region.